could. Liz Blatchford hasn't been on the podium for a while, but she's been on top of the sport for the best part of a decade and could spring a surprise on home ground.
When you run past the crowd, it lifts you like nothing else. You find something that you didn't know you had. So I'm hoping here that the whole run course is going to be lined with people we know.
But the home fans will be hoping that Helen Jenkins finds top form today. The reigning world champion has gradually improved throughout the year, posting 5th in both Washington and in Kitzbühel, and winning the London Triathlon in Docklands 2 weeks ago.
With Kitzbühel, it was the most painful last kilometre of my life and ended up 5th. But I think this year, because we've got races over different, we've got the series, so it's not just the one-off race, so it's good to try different things. And I was just pleased I had that speed there, and hopefully, these last couple of races I can maintain that for hopefully a bit longer than 4K.
Who would you think is the biggest threat for the women in London here?
This weekend, there's some good Aussies racing. Vanessa Fernandez is coming back into form. Lisa Norden, Daniela Riff, there's such strong athletes as well. They're real race changers. It's going to be a fast course. I think that's what it's going to be. You're going to have to be running fast, you're going to have to be biking fast, you're going to have to be tactically aware. There's different elements in every race, and I think the swim is going to be important for the girls in this one, especially if it's a non-wetsuit. So it's going to be an interesting day.
What lessons will you learn from this weekend when you think forward to 2012?
I think it's just being in the venue, because the course isn't exactly the same, but getting a feel for the venue, and it's nice to turn up to a course when it's familiar to you. It helps with visualising it helps with training for the course. So I think just having that 3 years out, we're just getting an advantage.
Well, I'm joined by former Olympic champion Mark Jenkins, husband to our world champion Helen. Mark, any chance of a comeback? I hear you've been training again.
There's a chance, but we'll see how things go. It's okay at the moment, so.
What's it like living and training with the athlete that you're coaching?
It works well. We both kind of help each other out. We balance training and coaching between each other, and it's great at the moment. Things may change if results don't go so good, but at the moment it's going great.
Is it not a little bit more pressure on her knowing that she can't get away with anything because you're there always watching?
I think she can maybe get away with more. I think we know when each other's really tired and stuff, whereas a coach outside the home environment probably wouldn't appreciate how hard it's been. So it's a really good balance at the moment between training and home life and everything else.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. Well, let's join the action. Michelle Dillon is in the commentary box with Stuart Story.
Well, the start list for you for this women's race, it's creme de la creme, as one would expect in a World Series race. This is the 6th race. Jodie Swallow there, Kerry Lang of Great Britain, Holly Avil, the junior, the very good junior from Great Britain. And of course this field, very, very tight indeed, and there's no clear winner here. It's going to be very, very competitive. Jodie Stimson completes the lineup with 61 starters. So the 6th race in this World Series for women is underway now. The 1500-meter swim ahead of them. They dived in, as you saw, from the pontoon. They'll first swim up towards the Serpentine Bridge alongside the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fountain. They'll turn back. They'll exit the water briefly, incidentally, and then dive back in to complete a second lap. Incidentally, a little bit of innovation, as the first person coming out of the water after the first lap diving in will get $500, so a little bit of a motivation there. But looking at the swimmers on the list, it's a 61-strong field, and one would expect a very, very close finish at the end of this swim. Helen Jenkins, our British world champion, should be there. DeMarco of Switzerland, then Vanessa Fernandez of Portugal, the champion from Europe. She's back in some sort of form, we're told now, but short of racing, that's for sure. Ida of Japan, Reef of Switzerland, Moore of Spain, then Jodie Swallow of Great Britain, always a good swimmer. Andrea Hewitt, who is the top-ranked swimmer thus far, and she'll be there. So will Annabelle Luxford probably, and Jessica Harrison. So we've got one clear leader. Alongside me is Michelle Dillon. Michelle, tactics on the swim?
Yes, Stuart. This is a very tight course actually today, and it's only 300 metres to the first buoy, and you know, they'd want to have a really good start and make sure they don't get they have a good position around the first buoy, so they don't get sandwiched basically, and and caught up in someone else's arms. But Andrea Hewitt looks like she's had a very, very good start, actually, and it looks like she's leading the swim at the moment. That's number 24.
Yes, it is, and 24 is Marua. Well, I mentioned her at the beginning. I mean, Marua certainly is one of those athletes who swam rather well in the Olympic Games in Beijing. She was up there in that leading group in the swim on that occasion, so she's up there as well. So it's changing. Number 20 there is Ricardo Lisk of Germany.
She looked like she was getting right in the middle of that bunch there, and that was quite tough going around that first buoy. That's where a lot of the ground is lost. These front girls have got clear water, and they're swimming in their own stroke and having great swims, and this is where a lot of the time is made up from the rest of the pack. This is Annabelle Luxford as well on the outside. She's a very good swimmer. She's having a good swim. Jodie Swallow is in there as well.
Yeah, Jodie Swallow comes from a swimming background and a running background, so
right.
She's pretty tough. And the point you made about Annabelle Luxford of Australia, she's not had such a good season. Didn't finish in one of the races we've seen in the series thus far, but coming back, we said we should look out for her because you never know.
She's the most talented athlete out there. Unfortunately, she's had so many injuries over the years. She's had nerve blocks. She's had a lot of problems coming from her back. She's had a lot of stress fractures, and she doesn't seem to be able to string a lot of training together. But she definitely is probably one of the strongest swimmers in this field, and she proves that time and time again, and she's going to probably lead this swim out today. Certainly on the first lap anyway. This is Annabelle leading now. And, you know, and she'll have a strong bike too, but we'll just have to see when it comes down to the run whether she's been stringing any training together or not.
Now then, they're coming up to the point at which the halfway stage, and they'll come out of the water.
Luxford's got about half a body length here, so I think she's just about going to lead this one out.
Let's have a little look and see. There we go. The first exit.
Yeah, it was Luxford.
Yes. So Luxford will benefit from $500.
$500, yep.
Marua, Oliveira and Hewitt, as you see, just as they come out of the water. Jessica Harrison's had a good swim. There's Reef, we pointed her out, and Helen Jenkins. There's not much in it, as one would expect after the first of these laps, and it's what's going to happen on the second lap now as to who will go into transition and get onto those bikes and get off onto the 8-lap course of the bike. For Luxford, there's the time, 9:39.
Kerry Lang's a little bit further down than I would have expected. She's at 24 seconds down. Holly Aville's 31 seconds down.
Yeah, Holly Aville has been going well in training, I'm told, and as a junior had a very disappointing Olympics, was ill and really unable to get past the first swim, so she's hoping to do a little bit better here. She is a great prospect, there's no doubting that at all. But look how well they're strung out now, and
really
this is Luxford, who's gone out very, very strongly indeed. And before the race, you said she might do this.
Yeah, I mean, if she has been injured, then she's going to push that swim bike very, very hard. And you know, sometimes Annabelle comes to these races and she doesn't even finish the race. So whether she's just going out to have a hard swim bike today, we don't know, or whether she's just going to try and make a break from early on and try and get away on the bike. It's just going to be interesting to see what she does here.
Well, you can see how far they have to go. They're coming up to the final buoy, and then they'll turn left. And Annabelle Luxford, there are a few statistics for you. She'll turn in, and then she'll head down towards the midpoint of the transition, because her bike will be stacked midway. And one or two of the others, like Hewitt, Reef, Norden, Harrison and Jenkins, will all be to the right, to the top.
They'll start to think now about the transition. It'll be running through their minds.
Talk to us a little bit about the preparation for transition then.
Okay, so basically they've got their bikes, they've got their helmets and their glasses if they choose to wear glasses. Today they're not wearing wetsuits, so that's one thing less to worry about. They'll have their shoes with elastic bands securely put onto their bike so that the bike shoes don't turn around. So when they jump on their bike, they can put their feet on there and get their feet straight into the shoes as quick as possible. pretty much they'll have gels attached to their bike, so they've got some nutrition out there on the bike as well, and they'll have their fluids on their bike as well. But,
and when they come into transition, it will be a matter of those not at the first few positions. They'll have to search out in the middle, so you've got to be a bit careful. You've got to, because time is critical, because there are times given for transition. Transition times are very important.
Very important. I mean, a lot of time is lost and won in transition, and you know, this is where if people lose their bikes, or I mean, this transition set out so you can't really lose your bike, which is great. So, but there has been times where you're running around in circles, like the London Triathlon, for example, but it's you know, when you've got bigger transition areas.
They're going to be coming out of the water very, very shortly now.
The final turn, and then they'll go into that transition, and then we'll see how efficient they are. And as you were saying, Michelle, they don't have the wetsuits to take off, and that is a very important part of technique when the water is below 21 degrees, the cut-off point where they do wear the wetsuits, and they'll have to get those wetsuits out as they run and towards their bike. But they don't have that today, so it'll be a little bit quicker.
It'll be a lot quicker, actually, a lot quicker. So they'll just be thinking about grabbing their bike, putting their helmet on as quick as possible, and jumping on that bike and going.
Well, that's a good lead now for the Australian. So Luxford, just a little look there up to see where the ramp is again, and she's approaching the ramp. Here it is, and out she'll come, and then she'll turn into the approach to transition and come down towards us.
Not too many riders have lost touch.
So actually, as we expected, look at the number of people in contention. This is a good lead, but it's not the sort of a significant lead that may impact upon the overall result. But Luxford's out, 19:29 and so forth. So it was a good swim, slightly second as one would expect, slower second half of the race.
Yeah, this is where they really have to try to get into the front pack here.
Well, Jenkins has come out as well. Jenkins is there. So is Groff of the United States, Hewitt and Swallow, and in transition is Graham Bell. Graham, your view from there?
Yeah, I'm down right with the action with Mark Jenkins. Just as Helen takes her bike, she's actually, well, second or third place. Now, Mark, the tactics of this, there's some good bikers in this lead pack, aren't there?
Looks like Danielle Riff has made the front pack, Jess Harrison and Helen and Annabelle Luxford. So I think this front pack may establish themselves and try and stay away on the bike and get a gap for the run.
So there's some good bikers in this front pack. Crucially, who's been dropped?
It looks like Norden, Spirig and Fernandez are off the back. Norden's gone through now as well, so she's going to work hard to catch up, but Fernandez hasn't made the front pack by the looks of it, so she'll be working hard from behind. So it's just whether they can stay away now.
So that's going to be hard for Vanessa Fernandez to bridge this gap.
And here comes Nicola Spirig as well, so she's a fantastic runner, so they're going to want to stay away from Spirig also.
So now this lead pack is going to work together as hard as they can to keep these guys away.
That's right. And that, actually Holly hasn't had the best from there, so she's going to be working hard to catch up. So that front pack now has got to work hard for the next lap to try and establish a gap.
Brilliant. Back to you, Stuart.
Well, this transition sits on the north shore of the Serpentine, and the athletes have really received a very warm welcome, as one would expect. It is a warm day too, and the sun is beginning to show through the odd spot in the clouds as the athletes will come through. You've heard how, in fact, they're faring as they go through transition. There's a slight uphill to start. They head north to Victoria Gate Lodge before completing that tight 180-degree turn, and then they come back towards the lake. And they'll be moving pretty quickly too, 30 miles an hour or so, and they'll be moving they will be all in contention. And this is the point at which the manoeuvring will take place. And talk to us a little bit about coming out of transition into the bike and what happens then.
Okay, so now they're on the bike, and there's been a little bit of a split. Looks like Annabelle Luxford and Helen Jenkins have just made a little bit of a gap there on about another 4 athletes behind. Now, they're going to be thinking to themselves, come on, Helen and Annabelle will be speaking to each other. Come on, guys, let's work together. And let's make a little bit more of a gap on this next pack. Let's not let them catch. So and these other 4 girls will be thinking, okay, let's try and get up and get onto that front pack, so that the next pack behind us are going to be a lot further back and they won't be able to catch us.
Well, there's Holly Avil, the youngster, and one would expect she's got a lot of work to do now in the mid part of this, the second discipline. There's Luxford coming into transition. The points you were making, there's the helmet going on straight away.
Straight on. She's had a really fast transition, and in fact, Helen has been really smart here because she knows Annabelle is really strong on the bike, so she's really gone really hard out of transition. Yeah. To catch Annabelle, and together now they've got a little break, which is really interesting.
Now then, Helen Jenkins takes over. Now, interesting, this is where Luxford, this is the first time she hasn't been in the lead pretty well right from the start. Hewitt led the swim early on, as you said, but then, of course, the rest are following. Now then, here's the chase group. Number 7 coming in there is Ida of Japan. Now, Ida of Japan is... was always going to be there or thereabouts in the swim, so she must have had a good transition too. I think we'll check on that in a moment, but that looked like her.
Okay. Let's have a look. I know Jessica Harrison's there now. She's been swimming very, very well of late, and she's had some very, very good results as well when she finished 3rd in Madrid this year. So if she's there, that's a fantastic swim from her as well.
Spence, Anaheim.
Now that's a group further back.
Yeah, it is. They're quite well back, aren't they?
It looked like there was a couple of groups all strung out actually, so it would take a couple of laps for those groups to start forming together.
Having a little chat at the front, and I would think they'll share a little bit of the lead, a little bit of drafting going on, a little bit of tactical work. The tactics of the cycle these days, Michelle?
I think it's really, this is important. The first couple of laps is the most important part of the race, where you've got Groff in there, you've got Hewitt in there.
Yeah, Hewitt is there. We mentioned her before in the swim, and she's up there. Luxford, you're right. So everybody who's supposed to be up there really is there.
That's it. And the second group, actually, there's a couple of girls coming up now, and they're trying to bridge across the gap. So that's going to be interesting. And it looks, you know, if they're going to commit there now, early in this race, they should get up to that front group.
Well, it's 40 kilometres in all, so there's a fair old way to go. So each one of the laps, what, 5K? So
5K.
Yeah.
It's very important to commit early in the bike leg. It really is, because once you know, like you can see here, this next group of Norden and Riff, I mean, they're strong cyclists. They're bridging up to the front group here. They know, and then once you get up and you've done the work, that's when you can just relax and sit in and wait for the run. Or in Riff and Norden's case, they'll probably try to make a break because that's what they've been doing lately.
Well, Jessica Harrison leading that group there. So 12th in Beijing. There's so many of these athletes who were in Beijing and featuring in the top 20. And just looking at Hewitt was 8th in that Olympic final. Norden, incidentally, was, you mentioned her, the Swede, 18th in Beijing. She's had a very good swim here because in Beijing she was 46th out of the water, well down. So she's very much better now. Mura, Norden, McElroy, Tanner. You know, at the moment, those figures just mean that there's a group. And they're all changing places every so often. And
yeah. This is going to be the front group now. This will be a strong front group, especially if Norden and Riff are in there. This is very interesting because this could potentially put a lot of time on the next group, which we can't even see. They're not even in screen yet, so in shot, sorry. So yeah, they're very, very interesting.
Yes, it is. Samuels, Dietmar, May, Mura. Well, it's all changed, isn't it?
It has.
It's a very fast run course here.
It is.
And there are one or two undulations in the bike course. There's a little bit of a chicane too near the bridge. Just have a look at this slow motion here, just to identify them. There's Mura, number 24. Number 56, there is Oliveira. We mentioned her earlier. 15 on the right. That's Groff, the American. She's had two top 10 placings in the series thus far, so we mustn't forget her. She was 7th in the World Championship final in Vancouver, incidentally. Number 30 there, that's Pion of France.
This is Fernandez. She's had a very poor swim for her, actually. This is the first time I've seen her having to really bridge up like this in a race. This is very, very different from what she's used to.
Well, for the moment, let's go back to Graham. What have we got, Graham?
Well, I'm with Mark down in transition, and it looked like there was 15 seconds between the second group and the third group, and it looked like the first and second group were going to come together. That's going to be crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll see in this next lap now the second group will have caught the first group. In that second group, we've got Norden and Riff. So what the girls in the first group have got to watch out for is that Norden and Riff don't try and make a break on their own. And if they do make a break on their own, then the British girls have got to try and go with that.
But if that group gets together, it's going to be a really strong, fast group at the front of the bike, and it's going to make things very, very difficult for Fernandez.
I think the girls behind are going to struggle now. Once Norden and Riff establish themselves at the front, that tends to dictate the race. Wherever they go, the race goes.
And Helen, looking good right now, working hard, but not too hard on the bike.
Helen's in a great spot. She's in the front pack. But again, she's got to be careful of Norden and Riff making a break on their own and try not to take anybody with them, because that's ultimately what they may try and do, like they did in Hamburg this year.
So when you're in a bike, when you're on the bike and you're in a pack of, say, a dozen people, you don't want to spend too much time at the front because you're using up your energy. But if you hang around at the back, then you could get dropped by a break that goes away.
Exactly. They don't want to kill themselves in that front group in case a group does go away and then they can't chase. But at the same time, they want to establish the gap. So it's a bit of an awkward situation to be in. You've got to work, but then you've got to conserve a bit of energy in case any breaks do go.
But things are looking good for Helen. Brilliant. Back to you, Stuart.
Yes, indeed. There's a big lead group. You've heard the analysis from Mark. And, of course, his wife doing very, very well indeed at near the front of this race. I saw Jodie Swallow on the back end of that leading group. She was detached for a while and then got back in. And, of course, that is to her advantage. Reef, Hewitt, both have been up there in the lead. McElroy's up there. Everybody who's anybody is up in that leading group. We've got Spirig off the back in the second group.
Yep. She's driving that second group as well, which is why they're probably catching.
And Avil, the youngster, is there with her as well. So, and it'll be interesting to see how that is going in terms of the difference between this lead group. But Swallow's back up there again, you know. She must be feeling good today.
She is, yeah. This is very good from Jodie. And she's putting her head down, and you know, oh, here comes the second pack now. They're right on their tail, and that's Spirig driving that second pack.
Well, that's very, very small margin now, and what they'll do is they'll make that difference up very slowly. They won't do it suddenly because that'll take too much. But look at this now; we're all coming together soon. It will be a bike race.
One big pack.
Yeah.
One big pack. Now this then will slow the whole pack down. This big pack, because really they'll be looking at each other, and that's when either a break will go, or the next pack behind, which I think is a minute behind at the moment, could even actually put time into that front pack. Well,
certainly there, the statistic just a few moments ago showed that the chase pack. Look at this now. It's all they've all caught up. This is a huge lead pack. There's that. Look at this.
Wow. You can see a couple going up the road now. They're trying to split the field up a little bit, and that's at McElroy again. She's having a great ride today. She's really sitting at the front, being smart and just driving, and Annabelle's right on her wheel there. I think I read that Kate McElroy wasn't that happy with her biking, you know, and I think that's her weakness. I mean, she's a strong swimmer. She's made that front pack today, and she's a strong runner. But today she looks like she's having a good bike ride as well.
She certainly is. She's done she's actually, you know, when you look back to her, she was a former mountain running champion. You know, she was up the hill. She's a national steeplechase champion as well. So she's useful to the used to the rhythm sapping events. And there's no well, there you go. Helen Jenkins coming through very strongly.
There's Melanie Spencer there from New Zealand. Now she's putting the pedal down there, and she's trying to make a break here on the front. Now she's really going to string this bike up now.
Well, Swallow's tucked in behind. There's only about 5 meters. It'll be interesting to see whether it is significant. The rest are there. Everybody's there. They're all, yeah, Zabo's there. Shoemaker, yeah. Well, the Shoemaker family well represented in the men's race as well.
Yep.
One withdrawal there, number 45. You see Sarah Fladung of Germany. She didn't finish in Madrid either, and was 29th and 26th in the previous 2 occasions that she competed, so one didn't expect her to be up there, but she's gone.
This is the second pack now. Now they're starting to work. chase group.
Yeah, let's see if we get an indication of how far they're behind now. Remember, it was 1:20 last time, wasn't it? 1 minute and 20. So let's see if we've got any advantage, if we get a caption on that at some stage.
The Carter Risk at the front end, number 20. Looks like they're actually doing some turns, which is really, really good to see.
Yeah, it is. By that you mean they really are pushing it, and they're really starting to motor a little bit. And someone might well have made the noise that, well, the lead group is not, you know, speeding along too quickly, and one or two of you may well get involved in the run at the end. But it's going to be very difficult to do that. I mean, there's some real class runners in this leading group as well. I mean, well, you know, when in the early days we used to say there's a swimmer, there's a runner. Chase group 58 seconds, so they've made up what, 22 seconds now, so that's a big improvement now. They are chasing, 22-second advantage, 18.8 kilometers to go of the 40-kilometer discipline. And that's very, very interesting indeed, because that's catchable, I would think.
Definitely. 1 minute isn't that far if you have 4 or 5 athletes actually willing to commit at the front. So, you know, I mean, this group is still going very, very slow, and here comes Spence again down the outside. So she's really playing mind games with these athletes.
Well, she certainly is now, because she's absolutely flying out of the transition area, absolutely flying. Now then, is this a break starting now?
I don't think this will eventuate to anything. No. I think it's good though for her to do this, because it will create a little bit of the athletes will just be a little bit nervous as to, you know, whether she's going what's going to happen next. I mean, if someone jumps across like Lisa Norden, then and maybe Riff or someone quite strong, that they could potentially stay away. But this is now the second group. And you've got Jodie Stimson on the front there, number 16.
Liz Blatchford there as well, isn't it? Yeah, she is there. She is. Look in the middle, to the right, second from the right.
You can see Liz is starting to talk to the other athletes and say, "Come on, guys, let's work together here. They're only 58. We're only at 58 seconds down. Let's start to really work hard here, and we can bring that right down."
There's definitely a difference in the attitude of the second group and the lead group now, and there are two different ways of approaching the race now, because the trailing group really do have a chance of catching the lead group unless the real pedal goes down and someone really makes the break, a significant break, and pulls the rest of the group, the leading group, with them.
It's Muller. Yeah, they're definitely working a lot harder, that second group, without a doubt. And Spence here, we see the replay of Spence going off the front there. Not sure where that's gone yet.
That was Luxford, wasn't it, in the picture there as well? And number 51 for you there is Spence, as you mentioned. Swallow going through. Now this, this does look a little bit. Now this looks really as though we're getting to the business end. Spirig, Luxford, DeMarco. We haven't mentioned her, have we? She's there as well, and she was one of our top swimmers as well. But DeMarco, well, we've got to watch her. Her best finish was in Madrid. She was 6th in Madrid, 7th in the World Championships in Hamburg in 2007, and not so good in the European Championships, but looking good. There are the placings as we go through. Liz Blatchford is there. Boydikova, she was leading one of the trail groups there. But there's a big group. Look at the times. They're all together. It's not a you know, 33rd to 40. They're all in one group. They're all together.
You see Rebecca Spence, she was caught there, and she's come back to the middle of the field. Oh, there's been a fall.
Oh, there is indeed.
Oh, okay. So she's gone off the front and she's fallen off.
Spence has, yes.
Oh no, she's taken that corner a little bit too quick. Well, that's a real shame for Rebecca Spence.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Rebecca Spence of New Zealand goes off. Took a bit of a knock there by the look of it, and doesn't seem to be too badly hurt.
She's got back on her bike, which is a really good sign. So hopefully she hasn't hurt herself too badly.
Well, just for a moment, the sun has come out.
Annabelle's looking for someone to take over now, and so Norden comes to the front.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, Spirig's sitting in there as well. She's not doing much work. I mean, she was initially chasing, and now they've caught. She's decided just to sit in, which is really, really smart.
Yes, it is, particularly when she knows that she can compete over 10 kilometres on the run. They have to be very careful. Look at this. The weather's a little bit tentative going around the bends. There are some tight bends here.
Oh, Holly's come to the front as well, Holly Avil.
Well, that's good to see Holly there, because I'm told she is in good shape. Her training's been going very strongly indeed and very well.
Okay, so Holly's going, oh, here we go. So she's
Yep.
just had a bit of a word to somebody by the looks of things, and she's going to try and make a break. Let's see what happens here.
Well, this could be her time.
I don't think so. Riff's gone with her,
Yes.
but I don't know if Holly, she's sitting up now. But definitely there's going to be a break made here for sure. I mean, they're all looking at each other, they're contemplating what's, you know, when to go.
That was Spirig of Switzerland behind her, I think.
That was Daniel Riff.
Was it?
Yeah. Pretty sure it was. Do you reckon?
We'll have a look. We'll have a look in a moment. But I just had a feel. We'll check on that in a moment.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. They still haven't gone anywhere yet. Anyway, they're all still there together.
Yes, it's a very much a tactical second discipline here.
Yeah, it's Riff.
Yeah. Well, we've heard about the Riff and Norden running capability, so if they're up at the front, then, well, clearly there's going to be quite a battle in the end, and it will be a tactical run. I'm looking forward to the 10,000 meters. I really am, because that.
Oh.
No, I think it is Spirig, actually.
It is now,
that's Spirig. Which is,
yeah. Because they both have the same numbers, don't they?
Well,
Similar, 2 and 22.
2 and 22. Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's Spirig. Yeah. Well, Spirig certainly was second in Kitzbühel. That's the only one she's competed in before here. She was 6th in Beijing, so there's a lot of experience in Spirig of Switzerland. The Swiss have done very well in triathlons over the years, particularly when since they've become an Olympic event in Sydney 2000. I remember sitting on the steps of the Opera House in that wonderful transition, watching them plough through the jellyfish as they came in off the swim. It was amazing. Hyde there, just in front of the Russian.
Yeah, the Swiss girls and the guys as well, they seem to be able to put the big races together very well and perform on the day. So they're very, very good, very experienced.
Now, Abisova, her heart rate is 89% of max. Wow. She's got the heart monitor on as well. There are 1 or 2 of the cyclists with the heart monitors on. It gives the heart rate and the percentage of maximum there, which is quite interesting for the physiologists amongst you. Look
That's
at that.
surprising, actually, because she's working quite high.
Yeah, yeah.
If she's sitting in and she's working that high,
yeah,
that's quite surprising. Yeah, so nothing's happening yet, but Spirig is there.
Yeah, Spirig leads. Avil in 2nd place at the moment. It looks like Avil now moving into 3rd place, isn't he?
Yeah, Spirig's just, she's up to something here. I don't know what she's
Well,
to do.
they seem to be pushing along a little bit now. That seems to be a real effort. As Spirig puts the pedal down, a little bit of a look round the corner. She's leading. There's that Jodie, and it is Jodie Swallow in 2nd place again. She's come from the back of the field.
She's come up. She's watching. That's really smart from Jodie, sitting up the front. Very, very smart. Because if break does go, then she can be right there. They're still really watching each other, though.
We're on the 7th lap. It's 1 minute and 5:23 gone. Everybody's still there. Just a lap, 8 laps overall in this 40-kilometer race. Spence is on the back of that group now. And after falling, that's very, very good indeed.
Oh, these girls are working definitely together now. They've definitely put some time into this next, because here they come. Look, this is not far at all. This is 38 seconds now down the 2nd pack.
Yeah.
Wow, they're really starting to catch up.
Yes, they were 1 minute and 20 down, and they've closed it very, very quickly indeed. Oh, look, we've got a big fall here. Hyde, the Japanese, is involved here. Is that Morrison, Katrina Morrison, is it?
No, that's Ailey Morrison.
Ailey Morrison, right. Let's just have a look. 37's involved in that. That's Fredriksson of Denmark, and that's a real pile-up, isn't it?
That is. That does not look good at all.
No, it doesn't. Some damaged bikes. There's Abisova, the Russian.
Oh, dear.
That's a shame.
This is terrible because, you know, the race is pretty much over. I mean, it looks like someone's hurt there as well. There's Ailey Morrison on the ground.
Well, lots of activity down in. Let's have a look and see what happens here. Oh, the fall is at the front. It looked like Morrison, didn't it, going down first?
Yep.
And the rest have gone over the top. One or two trying to avoid. Hyde was involved there. You can see the Japanese cyclist is there, but it's taken out about 7 or 8 of the cyclists there. Well, that can happen, but that's pretty tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it looked as though she may have been taking a gel down when she had one hand on the handlebars. So that could have been that there.
Well, Abisova was involved in that. Her heart rate's 181. Let's see what percent. 98%. So now she's the faller. So she's really suffering now. And that's just a little statistic for you. And she's trying desperately to get back into the race now. That's an awful shame because they were closing in very, very quickly. Just looking back at that fall, and that's a great, great shame. You can see Abisova just at the top of the picture there, very briefly, getting back on the bike and getting on. But the momentum, not only the momentum, but the psychological downturn that must create.
Well, I had the same problem actually in Hamburg in 2007. We just literally caught onto the back of the front pack. There was a big crash. I went down in the crash. I pretty much grabbed my bike, pulled it out of the wreck, got onto it, and then bridged back up. And it took a lot of energy out to bridge back up, but I eventually got back onto the front of the pack coming into transition. And it's had. And this is the girls here now. They know that this is the second pack here. Jodie Stimpson now working really hard on the front, committing now, which is really important to get up to that front pack.
Was that Rebecca Spence as well I saw in that group? No, we'll check on that in a moment. But all I can say is oh, look at this, 38 seconds from 1 minute 20 to 38. We saw the lead group slow. There were 2 groups that came together early on in the race, and then there was a trail pack 120 behind. They're now 38 seconds behind, and that means that they are in some sort of contention, and if but they have got to push now. The only danger they've got is if the lead group then put the pedal down and start to go, and one would expect something to break at the beginning, wouldn't you, at the end of this race? For the cyclists at the top.
Well, that second group now is very small because that accident just happened. So those girls now can work together as a team and reel that front pack in, and they're closing very, very quickly now. Yeah,
with just 9 kilometres or so to go. That's just corrected to 9.5 kilometres to go, and that is towards the end. And look at this, there's the gap. You can see the gap now between the lead. That is definitely Reef.
That's Reef there. Yep, she's at the front of that front pack.
Well, Graham, all sorts of bedlam in the transition and 1 or 2 crashes. Any news?
Yeah, we're down in transition here, and there's 2 quite badly hurt athletes. Mark, how does it look?
I think they're both okay. Well, the Irish athlete Morrison seems to be conscious, and she seems to be all right. It's what happens when you come through transition. Everybody gets very close, a bit twitchy, and a clip of wheels, and they can right mess like that.
And the trouble is, we've now got the pack chasing down, coming back round through, and there's paramedics on the course, and there's people standing here, and there's much less room for this next pack to come past.
Well, hopefully that doesn't cause any more accidents. The fact that there's people on the course probably shouldn't be on there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all a little bit dodgy down here in transition, but I think what this is going to do is it's just going to slow it all down even more. So back to you, Stuart.
Yes, thanks, Graham. It really is getting very, very, well, look at this. I mean, I've not seen this before. I mean, this is very, very unusual. There's a slowdown now. Remember, they've got about, they've got 9 kilometers to go of 40. And it's all gone slow again. And the groups are coming together. And we've really got the swim now has played no part in this whatsoever. They're all together. So this is all going to come down to a 10,000 meter run unless somebody can start to move now. It's got to happen soon. I mean, you're expecting it, aren't you?
Well, I mean, this second pack now, once that accident happened, they've caught up very, very quickly. They're now willing to sit in that pack and rest their legs because they know they've got about 9K to go on the bike. They're going to rest their legs. And Helen Tucker's at the front of there. Jessica Harrison's at the front there. Now, it's definitely going to come down to the 10K run now. There's no doubt about it. Anyone is in that front pack. And there's some fast girls in there, very fast.
You mentioned Helen Tucker. Of course, she's married to Mark Jenkins, so it's Helen Jenkins now, just to avoid any confusion.
Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. It's quite all right. You've raced with her and alongside her
many years
as Helen Tucker. She was world champion as Helen Tucker, and of course has now married Mark. Now, number 36 there, that's Svenja Baselen of Germany. She's had a 12th place finish in Hamburg, didn't finish in Madrid. Just looking at her world, she was the world champion in the 20 to 24 age group, so she's a talent. So this is going to come down to the runners now. There's absolutely no question about that.
Well, here we go. Nicholas Spirig now. She's going to push. She's pushing the pace. Oh, they're going for the sprint. They're going for the sprint for the preem, the bike preem, which is $500, isn't it? $500.
There are $500. They got one at the end of the second lap, and there's another $500 if they go through the dismount line, which is the preem line, on the end of the 7th lap. So that is something that whoever's in front has just earned themselves $500.
That was Spirig. She just said Spirig first.
Lap 8. And remember, this is the final lap then. So we've got, 5 kilometers to go or thereabouts.
You just saw Rebecca Spence there. She's still in that pack. She's at the back of that pack at the moment. Sarah Groff now leads that lead pack. Takes that corner really well. Spence is at the back there.
Well, this is absolutely magnificent. It's you sit back here and you think, we started at the beginning of this triathlon saying we're not sure who's going to win. We're 2/3 of the way almost through it, and we still don't know who's going to win. All we know is that there are about 30 cyclists who are going to put themselves into contention, but there are 1 or 2 very, very strong runners in there. And that was just a little look back at Spirig getting her $500. That's Brazen, incidentally, number 36. Number 57 on the shot is Emma Davis.
Well, no one's really expended too much energy now in that bike today. Like, I mean, the second pack catching, they're spinning their legs out now and they're resting. And so it really is now just down to this 10K run. Sarah Groff on the front, Holly Avil on her wheel, and Spirig's right up there as well. Jessica Harrison.
Well, anybody who's there. I mean, it's been the feature of this second discipline. They've completed 1,500 meters of swimming. They're well into the final 5,000 meters of this 40-kilometer bike, and then they've got 10 kilometers of running to come. Number 15 is Groff, Sarah Groff. We haven't said too much about her. We're 2 9th places in the series thus far, 7th in the World Championships in Vancouver, just to give a little bit of background to her. And she won the Aquathon World Championship too, so she's pretty versatile.
Sarah's a great swimmer, but she didn't actually lead the swim out today, which is quite interesting. Yep, everyone up there now is really looking at each other. You've got Nicholas Spirig. And I think these speed bumps here today are playing, you know, you've got to be really careful that you don't take a drink over a speed bump with one hand on the handlebars. I mean, that's where accidents can easily, you know, you can easily have an accident when, you know, if something happens and you're not in control of your bike. Carrie Lang's up there as well, number 31. Jodie Stimson's there. All the British girls are right up there. So this is a great day for the British girls.
There's Ede. Well, Ede was involved in that crash early on that we saw. She's got some pretty bad grazing there, but looks okay apart from that. She's a very good swimmer. She's a good triathlete, and it's disappointing for her. She was third in Tongyong, the Korean, well, a third and an eighth in the championship, so she'll be very, very disappointed to have lost out on this. Slowed down again.
It has.
It's settled down again. I just wonder what thoughts are going through the minds. Now, you were sixth place in an Olympic final. You would be, if you were in this position, what thoughts would be going through your mind?
Well, if I was in the lead pack now and I'd been in that, probably in that second pack and come up to that lead pack, then I would be very, very happy, because I would be sitting in there and just waiting, resting my legs and waiting for that run. You know, thinking about the transition now going through my head, making sure that I've taken a gel on board as well, had a gel, and that's where that Ailey Morrison came down, because she was taking a gel on board. But that's what I would be doing. I'd be taking a gel, making sure, replenishing.
Explain the gel, for people who have not seen triathlon before.
So it's like, you can get them from Power Bar, for example. It's a small gel of about 100 calories. You can, it's a gooey texture, and they're very convenient. You can just put them onto your bike with a bit of tape or something like that, and then they come undone at the top quite easily. So you take it off and you just squirt it into your mouth pretty much, and then just put some water down as well with that. And there you have 100 calories very, very quickly, very, very easily, very easy to digest as well, so that when you do get out there on the run, you haven't got anything heavy sitting in your stomach.
Close proximity. It is difficult. There are times when you have to sit there to get out of that to pack. You're trapped in, you've got to wait your time, you've got to be very careful, you don't contact other bikes, but you are drafting, you get the advantage of drafting. Now tell me about the drafting and you Olympians. Drafting
is very, it's so much easier than non-drafting. If you're caught on your own, you know, you have the wind factor. It's about 30% easier sitting on someone else's wheel, and if you position yourself well, like in that middle of that pack there, as you can see from the top, in the middle of that pack there is perfect. But you'd like to be a little bit at the front, just to make sure, like if an accident does happen, you can easily get out of it. But it's so much easier sitting in a pack on a wheel. As you can see, these girls are now just down to pedestrian pace.
Well, we've got a shot there of Jenna Schumacher of the United States. Her best finish is 24th in this series so far. So this is a very different race. This is entirely different. And let me remind you once again, this is the course for the Olympic Games triathlon in 2012. So it's a great course, really. I mean, it's wonderful in Hyde Park here.
They're all getting ready now for this transition. They're starting to adjust, get their feet out of their shoes and get to the front. Now, it's very important you get to the front of this pack, really. It really is, to come into transition. I mean, this could be the difference between winning and coming fifth. I mean, it's a close race, more so in the men than the women's race, but you know, these days the racing's getting closer and closer, so these transitions are important. And Holly Avil is sitting at the front, which is a very, very smart move from Holly.
Well, it is. Muller's there on the side, isn't she? Yes, that's Muller. And Avil not having any. Look, her feet are out of the shoes. She'll get into transition, and she will then get onto the run. Now then, the tactics of running, as far as Holly are concerned, she's only 19, she's a lot to learn, and this will be a big learning process, because this is not a lone run. She's going to have athletes all round her, and she's going to have to be tactically aware. She's going to have to know who's there and what they're capable of in order to judge the race that she herself can put together.
We don't have Emma Moffat here today, who is, you know, the standout runner of this field. If she was here today, she's not here today.
But Graham, you're closer to transition than us. Just keep us up to date.
Yeah, we're down in transition, and we're just watching them all running down towards us now. just trying to pick out Helen. Can you see Helen in there, Mark?
I can't see her yet. I saw her coming in. I think she's about 10th place. Yeah, she's coming through now, so she's in a good spot for transition.
Here she comes now. So this is Helen racking her bike. Now, what are the tactics now? Just to be as quick as possible and get out in the front.
You just want to be as quick as possible, get your shoes on as quick as possible, so you don't want to give yourself too much ground to make up out of transition. So it's important you don't come out of the back of the pack, because if you're at the back of the pack, you've got 10 seconds to run through to the front of the pack. So, for instance, Jodie's had quite a bad transition here, so she's giving herself a lot of ground to make up.
So, not good from Jodie Swallow in transition, but who are the ones we need to watch? Who are the good runners in this race? Because it doesn't look like the bike has taken that much out of them.
No, the bike has been very passive. They haven't done any work. So the people we've got to watch is Nicola Spirig, Sheedy Ryan, Riff and Norden, and then hopefully Helen and Holly as well will be up there with Kerry Lang and Jodie Swallow for Great Britain as well. And Jodie Stimson was actually in there too. So all the British contingent in that pack.
So it's all come down to a running race. And good luck to Helen. Back to you, Stuart.
Yeah, well, thanks, Graham. We were just watching Jodie Swallow there. It was a poor transition, wasn't it? Because she was up there or thereabouts in that leading group, and she's way, way down. She is a good athlete. There's no question about that. We know about Jodie. She comes from a running background, and she'll need to be very careful she doesn't try and make up the deficit too quickly in the early stages of this race. And we'll pick up who's there in a moment when we get a close-up of the leading athletes. And all of those names you've mentioned, Spirig and Norden and Riff and Helen Jenkins herself.
Well, there's Jodie Stimson leading out, and that's one of my athletes that I coach, actually, and she's having a fantastic race, and this is expected from her. She's running exceptionally well in training, and she'll be very, very happy to come off in that front pack today.
Well, as they go in the early stages, let me tell you that they complete 4 out and back loops here. Heading in the reverse direction to the bike course. The psychological warfare, certainly we've mentioned that before, it'll begin with athletes passing each other at either end. They're clocking time gaps and distances as they complete this 10,000 meters there.
Yeah, Jodie's having a fantastic run here. She's gone out very hard. There's Nicola Spirig with her, Lisa Norden, and Debbie Tanner's actually having a fantastic run as well today. They've put a little bit of a gap on the next couple of athletes behind them.
I tell you, the ranking lists mean nothing today, and it's an entirely different race. This is a real competitive championship race. Here's transition once again. Let's have a look at this. There's Helen Jenkins in the middle. Norden coming through here. They've already got their feet out. We saw that. Luxford, she's still there. Remember, she led out of the swim early on in the event. Riff on the right, we've got to watch out for her. There's Harrison. Spirig, we know Spirig is good. Here's Hewitt. Andrea Hewitt, the New Zealander, who leads the rankings in terms of the competitors here today. Helen Jenkins, in the past, she's gone off a bit too quick. She'll have suffered a bit. But there you've got it after the bike. Norden, Spirig, Marura. There's Jessica Harrison. The times look +2 seconds, so they're all there together. So the actual positions there, not too significant. All of those look within 4 seconds, so that's nothing. That means that they're all even going into the 10K. A little bit of a problem for Jodie early on, but she will make her way back, one would hope. But
what's happened here is the split has happened early because the first 1K has been very, very fast by this woman here, Jodie Stimson. Now she's gone out very hard and created that split of 4 athletes behind her. They're actually struggling to hang on at the moment. This is quite interesting. She's really laying down this pace here. And someone here is just, is that Riff coming across?
It could be. Just there's the turn, and they'll see when they turn round. Was that Debbie Tanner of New Zealand in second place? I think it was, wasn't it? Well, they're well out onto the run now. Stimson leads. Tanner in second place. Groff of the United States is up there. So is Helen Jenkins of Great Britain, the world champion. But Jodie Stimson now benefiting from a cycle discipline that really didn't take off. It was, and I think we've used the word passive in a way, after all the hard work in the swim, but then that's what this competition's all about.
Jodie's very new, obviously, to this type of racing, so she's very excited at the moment. She may be going out a little bit too hard, but I mean, this is the way she wants to take this race out today, and you know, we'll see how this goes. But I tell you, Debbie Tanner looks very comfortable. This is the best run I've seen her have in a long time. I know it's still early in the run, but
it's a very different race, this, to the others. I mean, Debbie was 14th in Hamburg, 24th in Kitzbühel, 11th in Washington, and 23rd in the first of the races in Tongyong. So, you know, it's really changed. But she was 9th in the World Championships in Vancouver last year. So there was an indication that, you know, she's a real talent, that's for sure. Reef, that is Reef.
Yep, she's in the middle of the two bunches there.
Yes, she is. So Jenkins on the left, you can see Spirig is there. Norden.
It looks like they're settling into a nice pace now.
Well, certainly Lisa Norden. They all look very comfortable indeed here.
They do.
There's not, you can't tell much from this. And it would be foolish to try and get away at this early stage. It's very much a tactical thing. This is going to come down to a sprint finish, I think, unless someone can really make some headway and start to dominate. Maybe Spirig.
Who is that in the red? Is that Riff coming across? I mean, she's really surging up. To the
if that is Riff, I think that is Riff, and that is a bit too quick.
That's going to take a lot out of that athlete coming up. I don't know if it is her though. It looks. It's.
If we can just, we'll have a little look at the moment. Stimson is there. Norden. Jenkins takes it on. Very much the confident young woman. There's no question about that. She said, "This is my home territory. This is. I'm feeling good. I'm looking good." And she's proving to be good. And I'm just looking to see if we've got an athlete join. I think it is Riff, but we'll check in a moment. She's just hidden behind. That looks like Riff to me, but we'll have a look when we get the close-up shots again, who's joined them. But I have to say that was pretty quick. Now, Jodie Swallow obviously hasn't made that headway.
I know it's Elizabeth May.
It is.
Elizabeth May from Luxembourg. So she's
well, indeed, yes.
That's a really good run there to be able to bridge that back up and then sit on the back of this pack.
I just have a feeling that she did it too quickly, though, and may well suffer a little bit later on in the order of things. We shall see. But Elizabeth May, 17th in Washington, 24th in Madrid. She did go to Beijing, but she was way down the back in 41st place in the Olympic final. But having said that, she was the second fastest on the run in the Olympic Games, which is quite something. Now that's an interesting statistic, really. Well, Norden still in the middle of that leading group. Stimson leads. Jenkins in second place. Norden in third place. Then Spirig is there. So is Debbie Tanner of New Zealand. They're just looking at each other. There's a lot of concentration here. This is going to be very, very interesting. We didn't expect. We said it was. We've said again it was going to be close, but we didn't expect it to have so many in contention in the final stages of this run. But this is the start of the 10K. This is something that, you know, at the end of it all, there'll be a sprint finish from this. There's got to be.
Well, this looks like it's going to be the top six women here. I mean, this is unless someone else bridges up, or so it's quite a big gap, I think. So here they come now past us.
Yeah, well, they're just coming through transition, Graham. The thoughts of Mark on this?
Well, I was talking to Mark about this. We saw Helen Jenkins' heart rate at 173, and I said, well, what's Helen's max? And it's well over 200, isn't it?
Yeah, Helen's max is around 205, so 173, she should be able to sit at that all day. So that hopefully means that she's sat there comfortable. They're playing a bit of a game of cat and mouse in there at the moment, seeing who's going to take on the pace. But Helen and both Jodie look comfortable in that.
How much of it is down to keeping a poker face so that you don't let the opponents know that you're hurting?
Certainly in this early stage, you don't want to show that you're too fatigued and going to drop off. So it's good to look fresh at this early stage of the run.
Brilliant. So is it going to be from this 6, or can that chasing pack with Reef in it catch them?
No, I think it's going to be from that 6. The winner will, all the podium positions will come from that 6.
Well, let's hope so, because we've got 2 Brits in there. Back to you, Stuart.
Well, let's hope so indeed. An interesting insight close at hand there from transition from Mark Jenkins. He knows at 173 pulse rate all day. Well, mere mortals perhaps not. That is amazing. Quite right. So she must be in very, very good shape indeed, with a max of over 200. We used to achieve that in training on the track in those woods at Loughborough colleges in the early days, but no more. Stimson there, Jenkins up there, Tanner's there, so is Norden and May at the back, and May will have consolidated their Spirig on the far side. So the medals coming from these 6 absolutely clear. They are away from the rest, and there is enough talent here to make sure that no one catches. Well, I think the whole event has been good so far. It's been cat and mouse right from the start. Probably the swim was the most dramatic of the 3 disciplines thus far, but I have a feeling that the story will unfold here and the end of it will be quite interesting. Jenkins leads, Tanner in 2nd place, Norden in 3rd, Stimson on the near side in 4th, Spirig in 5th alongside May in 6th. These are the 6. It's down to these 6.
Unless somebody else is going to run through. We heard Holly Abel's running quite quickly from the next group, but she did come off in that lead pack, so she has to then gap that, you know, she has to make up and use up a lot of energy to get back onto this lead pack again. So I don't know if that's going to happen.
No, I think it would be an unlikely outcome. Nothing's impossible, of course, in this day and age, but there's a gap there which is quite significant now.
Yep, it's quite significant. Oh, here we go. Helen Jenkins is starting to just sit at the front here and just try to string these athletes out a little bit.
Yep, there's a subtle increase in pace. Nothing too clear, but it's subtle. And Tanner has gone in behind her. Stimson just rocking and rolling a little bit in those shoulders, but certainly Helen Jenkins looks very, very good indeed at the moment. And all of a sudden Norden takes a count. May well be suffering a little bit after that early charge where she tried to join the lead group. We know that she can run, and we know that she may well be going through a little bit of a bad patch here, may need a little bit more of a rest after that big surge early on, and but there's nothing lost yet, and they're all still there. So not a significant break, but it was all of a sudden a disruption of rhythm, and that's what clearly gives problems to the athletes. When the rhythm is disrupted, then they tend to be physiologically under pressure, let's say.
That's right. I mean, they're all looking at each other now, and it's who's going to be willing to put in a surge to make that break and really put the pressure on the other athletes.
Right. If you were there and sitting in amongst that group, what would you be thinking at this particular time? Knowing what's gone on before, you're sitting there, you're British #1, you're an Olympian, you're sitting there, you're in good form, what would you be doing?
Well, it depends on what the pace is actually feeling like. I mean, if the pace, I felt like I was struggling with the pace, I'll just be happy to sit there. If I felt like I was comfortable, I would probably start to surge a little bit and start to, you know, put the pace down, so string the athletes out so that there's less people at the end, because I knew that I couldn't finish. I knew I had to get rid of people early. So I would be thinking to myself, with about 3K to go, I'm going to put the pressure on here and see how many athletes I can get rid of.
Well, there you've got Groff and Dietmar leading Hewitt. Hewitt in 3rd place there, Riff in 4th place. That's the trailing group, of course, and they were, 20 seconds behind. There's the lead group up in front. You can see those. There's a 20-second gap here. Well, this the leading group then coming through, approaching transition now with Helen Jenkins leading. Norden in 2nd place. Spirig on the left of your shot is there. May has come back in, and so has Tanner, and it's Stimson who's dropped off the back of that group. So we're down to 5 now.
Well, Jodie Stimson's definitely the inexperienced athlete out of those 6, so she may have gone a little bit too hard there. Still having a fantastic race. Helen Jenkins leads from Norden.
Helen Jenkins of Great Britain leads. Norden of Sweden in second place. This is the trailing group of Groff, of Hewitt, who heads the rankings on the day. Riff is there. We expected a little bit more from Riff. This is the trailing group. They're about 20 seconds down. In fact, it's probably a little bit more than that at the moment. And this is the trailing group. And I don't know what's happened to Jodie Swallow at all. And whether she's pulled out, I have no idea. There must have been a problem. She had a dreadful transition. But the leading four...
Debbie Tanner's just falling off the back now as well.
Yes, indeed. We're down to four, I think. Debbie Tanner of New Zealand, 9th placer in the World Championships, looks to me to be losing a little bit of distance there. The trail group, 13 seconds down. So they've improved. They're getting closer.
I think that might be to Jodie Stimson.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes. Of course, she's in second. She's the second place.
And then there's probably another. Yeah.
There's Jodie. Yeah, and then there's the group following her. Yeah, you're quite right.
You can see by Jodie's face she's starting to grimace now. She's starting to really grit her teeth and really dig deep. Yeah,
Dittmer and Groff and Hewitt there, and along with Reef just obscured from view, and they're just coming through. And Jodie Stimson, who really is giving it a good go here. You have to say that she was totally committed to it. But I have, once again, Helen Jenkins of Great Britain looking very strong. For those of you who followed triathlon, she was Helen Tucker, of course, who won the world title under that name. She's since married to Mark Jenkins. We've been hearing from Mark in transition along with Graham. And she's getting better and better and better. Mark himself, of course, an Olympian, so a very Olympic family there. Oh, Norden looks comfortable, tall, quite happy. Spirig is there, can't tell much from that. May, who we know about May, she had to really work hard to get with this group, but has done well to stay there. Now there's the trail group as well. There's Stimson ahead. She's in what, 5th place?
Yeah. Now, I mean, if these girls now catch Jodie, and you know, she sits in that pack, she can then regain her confidence again, get back into a really good rhythm, still have a fantastic race. I mean, she's having a fantastic race still. I mean, this is fantastic from the 20-year-old, who is really her first World Cup.
Yes, I agree with that, and she may well be just going through a bad patch. It looks as though she may well be suffering from the pace. The pace was pretty good early on. It looks quite tough to me. Not as passive as the cycle element of the triathlon, and it's put a lot more strength into the legs of these athletes, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a fast run today, and Helen's definitely injecting some pace into this run. But as you can see, it's the experienced athletes who are going with Helen today. Lisa Norden and Nicola Spirig. Debbie Tanner just off the back of that pack. She's still having a fantastic race for Debbie. I mean, she hasn't had a race like this in a while, so she'll be really pleased with this. She can just hang in there. That's Debbie just dropping off now, just off the pack.
Can't tell a lot. Sunglasses on. No giveaway signs yet. Helen Jenkins looks comfortable, shoulders relaxed. So does Norden in second place, the tall figure of the Swede. Spirig, slighter figure, looks strong too. May just moving. Looks comfortable now, May, again.
She does. She does look comfortable. Now, this is a fantastic run from Elizabeth May. I mean, she hasn't had a run like this in a while either. I mean, she surged up early in the race, and she's hanging in there now, and she's got herself into a really good rhythm. She's probably thinking to herself, okay, I just need to stay on this pace now, as long as, you know, there's no more surges from Helen or anyone else. I think Lisa Norden's fairly happy to sit in there at this pace as well, and so's this could be definitely a sprint finish, without a doubt.
Well, we're certainly down to 4. Spirig has been very happy to sit in the back as Helen Jenkins has done the leading here, so she's setting the tenor of the race. In other words, she's established a pace, and the rest will be sitting there. Now, we heard about Norden's prowess. We know about May. We know that she can finish.
I think Nicola Spirig looks the best out of these, to be fair. She's definitely got the running background, the running pedigree, more than any of those athletes in that lead pack today. So, you know, but then again, you still can't discount someone like Helen Jenkins or Lisa Norden, because they both are very good runners.
Well, one thing's for certain, that Helen will not give in easily here. The evidence of the coming into form is there before you. She declared that. She was quite confident coming into this race. This is her 5th race of the series thus far. Her best performance is 2 5th places. So this is going to be a little better, as it looks at the moment, as it's down to 4.
It's Debbie Tanner now.
Now, the point I was making about the psychological advantage of coming back, and you can see how far you are ahead. Well, there's the evidence for it.
Yeah, they can have a look across and see how much gap they've actually put on those other athletes. Will give them a big boost to know that they've dropped Debbie Tanner, and it looks like Jodie Stimson has actually gone back into that next pack behind.
Well, that will be helpful for her, because it's a lot easier. She was in no man's territory for a long time, which will have taken a lot more out of her. But certainly Helen Jenkins is providing the pace here, and I just hope, I wish that someone else would take it on as well. But
yeah.
you know, it's always ominous when you set your stall and you sit out there and the others are just waiting and they're getting mentally prepared. Spirig is moving wide, looking very, very sharp. She really does on the near side. May, well, looked as though she might have dropped off, but she's obviously gone through a little bit of a bad patch, now has come back into it. And Debbie Tanner, a New Zealander.
Debbie Tanner's hanging in there. I mean, that's a good sign from Helen Jenkins, actually, because she's leading this run here today, and she's setting the pace, and it's a pace that she feels comfortable at. So that's a really good sign. And the other, I mean, May looks like she's slipping off the back a little bit, and then she'll come back on, and then she slips back off. So I don't know whether she's that comfortable at the moment.
Well, we don't worry about times on occasions like this, because this is about competition. It's about who wins. No one giving anything away at all.
No one. I mean, you can see Helen checking her shoulder every now and then, just seeing if they're still there. And there's Tanner. She's on her own, and that's pretty hard running on your own like that, in between 2 packs. She's pretty much running. You know, she doesn't feel that comfortable because she slipped off that front pack. She's probably a little bit out of her comfort zone, and she's probably just trying to recover and just try and finish off this race best she can.
Well, we're into the 3rd lap in this triathlon, and really we're down to 4. Helen Jenkins of Great Britain, the world champion, on the left. Nicola Spirig of Switzerland, 4th in the European Championships. Looks very, very strong. We know that Spirig is an athlete of some consequence.
Oh.
She can run, and I just wonder, is there a change happening here?
Spirig's making a break. She's going for it. They're starting to drop off Elizabeth May off the back there. She's really injected some pace there.
Well, Spirig certainly, and Norden is going along. Now then, Jenkins. Now, I think that's not a bad thing to happen, actually. If it takes the pressure off Helen Jenkins just for the moment, and she can now sit in. Now, that little glance over the shoulder, I hope that wasn't telltale, just to see what was happening. But we're down to 3. Where's May off the back of that group? But there's definitely, oh, look at this. There is it. Now, that looks to me as though May will be dropped. And Jenkins wants to go into the lead again. Now, I'm just wondering whether perhaps it would have been better to sit there just for a while, because you're not going to impress and run the legs off these 2 athletes. They're too good for that. I think that probably it might have been better just to sit there and to just bide your time for a while, because she's been leading for a long, long time. And Spirig made that little burst, Look at this now, there's a little look again. Now what's happening here?
I tell you what they're doing. They're all looking around to see, you know, because they know that this is the podium here. Everyone wants to be on the podium, and no one likes having 4 athletes in that front pack running along and somebody missing out. So they're making sure now that Elizabeth May is gone, and then they know it's down to these 3 athletes. So they keep checking over their shoulder to make sure that they put that gap on. And if they feel that Elizabeth May is still in contention, they'll probably put in another little surge just to make sure she's gone.
Well, this is the business end of the race now, just 3, and who will go? Spierig has sat in behind the other 2 for a long, long time. She hasn't done the leading. Jenkins certainly has, and not far to go now, so somebody's going to have to make a move. Certainly, Norden moves. Here goes Spierig on the left, and Norden goes with her, and Jenkins is caught as they come into the final straight, and Spierig is coming away. It's between Spierig and Norden now as they come down towards the finish. Jenkins is beaten. She's going to take 3rd place, the best finish of the series so far, but Spierig, Nicola Spierig of Switzerland, comes away to win, and it's very, very fast indeed. 1:54.22 unofficial, and Norden in 2nd place, the Swede, then Helen Jenkins in 3rd. Well, what a race that was, a truly magnificent race. Spierig had the sprint finish, and the rest will follow in. There's Reef coming in, there's Lisk, the rest following. Dietmar comes in too, May has already come in. May.
Could. Liz Blatchford hasn't been on the podium for a while, but she's been on top of the sport for the best part of a decade and could spring a surprise on home ground.
When you run past the crowd, it lifts you like nothing else. You find something that you didn't know you had. So I'm hoping here that the whole run course is going to be lined with people we know.
But the home fans will be hoping that Helen Jenkins finds top form today. The reigning world champion has gradually improved throughout the year, posting 5th in both Washington and in Kitzbühel, and winning the London Triathlon in Docklands 2 weeks ago.
With Kitzbühel, it was the most painful last kilometre of my life and ended at 5th. But I think this year, because we've got races over different, we've got the series, so it's not just the one-off race, so it's good to try different things. And I was just pleased I had that speed there, and hopefully, these last couple of races I can maintain that for hopefully a bit longer than 4K.
Who would you think is the biggest threat for the women in London here?
This weekend, there's some good Aussies racing. Vanessa Fernandez is coming back into form. Lisa Norden, Daniela Riff, there's such strong athletes as well. They're real race changers. It's going to be a fast course. I think that's what it's going to be. You're going to have to be running fast, you're going to have to be biking fast, you're going to have to be tactically aware. There's different elements in every race, and I think the swim is going to be important for the girls in this one, especially if it's a non-wetsuit. So it's going to be an interesting day.
What lessons will you learn from this weekend when you think forward to 2012?
I think it's just being in the venue, because the course isn't exactly the same, but getting a feel for the venue, and it's nice to turn up to a course when it's familiar to you. It helps with visualising it helps with training for the course. So I think just having that 3 years out, we're just getting an advantage.
Well, I'm joined by former Olympic champion Mark Jenkins, the husband to our world champion Helen. Mark, any chance of a comeback? I hear you've been training again.
There's a chance, but we'll see how things go. It's okay at the moment, so.
What's it like living and training with the athlete that you're coaching?
It works well. We both kind of help each other out. We balance training and coaching between each other, and it's great at the moment. Things may change if results don't go so good.
Be there, so will Annabelle Luxford probably, and Jessica Harrison. So we've got one clear leader. Alongside me is Michelle Dillon. Michelle, tactics on the swim?
Yes, Stuart. This is a very tight course actually today, and it's only 300 metres to the first buoy, and they'd want to have a really good start and make sure they don't get they have a good position around the first buoy, so they don't get sandwiched basically and caught up in someone else's arms. But Andrea Hewitt looks like she's had a very, very good start actually, and it looks like she's leading the swim at the moment. That's number 24.
Yes, it is, and 24 is Marua. Well, I mentioned her at the beginning. I mean, Marua certainly is one of those athletes who swam rather well in the Olympic Games in Beijing. She was up there in that leading group in the swim on that occasion, so she's up there as well. So it's changing. Number 20 there is Ricarda Lisk of Germany.
She looked like she was getting right in the middle of that bunch there, and that was quite tough going around that first buoy. That's where a lot of the ground is lost. These front girls have got clear water, and they're swimming in their own stroke and having great swims, and this is where a lot of the time is made up from the rest of the pack. This is Annabelle Luxford as well on the outside. She's a very good swimmer. She's having a good swim. Jodie Swallow is in there as well.
Yeah, Jodie Swallow comes from a swimming background and a running background, so right. She's pretty tough. And the point you made about Annabelle Luxford of Australia, she's not had such a good season. Didn't finish in one of the races we've seen in the series thus far, but coming back, we said we should look out for her because you never know.
She's the most talented athlete out there. Unfortunately, she's had so many injuries over the years. She's had nerve blocks. She's had a lot of problems coming from her back. She's had a lot of stress fractures, and she doesn't seem to be able to string a lot of training together. But she definitely is probably one of the strongest swimmers in this field, and she proves that time and time again. And she's going to probably lead this swim out today, certainly on the first lap anyway. This is Annabelle leading now, and you know, and she'll have a strong bike too. But we'll just have to see when it comes down to the run whether she's been stringing any training together or not.
Now then, they're coming up to the point at which the halfway stage, and they'll come out of the water.
Luxford's got about half a body length here, so I think she's just about going to lead this one out.
Let's have a little look and see. There we go. The first exit.
Yeah, it was Luxford.
Yes. So Luxford will benefit from $500.
$500, yep.
Murren, Oliveira and Hewitt, as you see, just as they come out of the water. Jessica Harrison's had a good swim. There's Reef, we pointed her out, and Helen Jenkins. There's not much in it, as one would expect after the first of these laps, and it's what's going to happen on the second lap now as to who will go into transition and get onto those bikes and get off onto the 8-lap course of the bike. For Luxford, there's the time, 9:39.
Kerry Lang's a little bit further down than I would have expected. She's 24 seconds down. Holly Aville's 31 seconds down.
Yeah, Holly Aville has been going well in training, I'm told, and as a junior had a very disappointing Olympics, was ill and really unable to get past the first swim, so she's hoping to do a little bit better here. She is a great prospect, there's no doubting that at all. But look how well they're strung out now, and really this is Luxford, who's gone out very, very strongly indeed. And before the race, you said she might do this.
Yeah, I mean, if she has been injured, then she's going to push that swim bike very, very hard. And you know, sometimes Annabelle comes to these races and she doesn't even finish the race. So whether she's just going out to have a hard swim bike today, we don't know, or whether she's just going to try and make a break from early on and try and get away on the bike. It's just going to be interesting to see what she does here.
Well, you can see how far they have to go. They're coming up to the final buoy, and then they'll turn left. And Annabelle Luxford, there are a few statistics for you. She'll turn in, and then she'll head down towards the midpoint of the transition, because her bike will be stacked.
But at the moment, it's going great.
Is it not a little bit more pressure on her, knowing that she can't get away with anything because you're there always watching?
I think she can maybe get away with more. I think we know when each other's really tired and stuff, whereas a coach outside the home environment probably wouldn't appreciate how hard it's been. So it's a really good balance at the moment between training and home life and everything else.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. Well, let's join the action. Michelle Dillon is in the commentary box with Stuart Story.
Well, the start list for you for this women's race, it's creme de la creme, as one would expect in a World Series race. This is the 6th race. Jodie Swallow there, Kerry Lang of Great Britain, Holly Aville, the junior, the very good junior from Great Britain, and of course this field very, very tight indeed, and there's no clear winner here. It's going to be very, very competitive. Jodie Stimson completes the lineup with 61 starters. So the 6th race in this World Series for women is underway now. The 1,500-meter swim ahead of them. They dived in, as you saw, from the pontoon. They'll first swim up towards the Serpentine Bridge alongside the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fountain. They'll turn back. They'll exit the water briefly, incidentally, and then dive back in to complete a second lap. Incidentally, a little bit of innovation, as the first person coming out of the water after the first lap diving in will get $500, so a little bit of a motivation there. But looking at the swimmers on the list, it's a 61-strong field, and one would expect a very, very close finish at the end of this swim. Helen Jenkins, our British world champion, should be there. DeMarco of Switzerland, then Vanessa Fernandez of Portugal, the champion from Europe. She's back in some sort of form, we're told now, but short of racing, that's for sure. Ida of Japan, Reef of Switzerland, Moore of Spain, then Jodie Swallow of Great Britain, always a good swimmer. Andrea Hewitt, who is the top-ranked swimmer thus far, and she'll midway. And one or two of the others, like Hewitt, Reef, Norden, Harrison and Jenkins, will all be to the right, to the top.
They'll start to think now about the transition. It'll be running through their minds.
Talk to us a little bit about the preparation for transition then.
Okay, so basically they've got their bikes, they've got their helmets and their glasses if they choose to wear glasses. Today they're not wearing wetsuits, so that's one thing less to worry about. They'll have their shoes with elastic bands securely put onto their bike so that the bike shoes don't turn around. So when they jump on their bike, they can put their feet on there and get their feet straight into the shoes as quick as possible. Pretty much they'll have gels attached to their bike, so they've got some nutrition out there on the bike as well. And they'll have their fluids on their bike as well. But,
and when they come into transition, it will be a matter of those not at the first few positions. They'll have to search out in the middle, so you've got to be a bit careful. Because time is critical, because there are times given for transition. Transition times are very important.
Very important. I mean, a lot of time is lost and won in transition, and you know, this is where if people lose their bikes, or I mean, this transition's set out so you can't really lose your bike, which is great. So, but there has been times where you're running around in circles, like the London Triathlon, for example. But it's you know, when you've got bigger transition areas.
They're going to be coming out of the water very, very shortly now.
The final turn, and then they'll go into that transition, and then we'll see how efficient they are. And as you were saying, Michelle, they don't have the wetsuits to take off, and that is a very important part of technique when the water is below 21 degrees, the cut-off point where they do wear the wetsuits, and they'll have to get those wetsuits out as they run and towards their bike. But they don't have that today, so it'll be a little bit quicker.
It'll be a lot quicker, actually, a lot quicker. So they'll just be thinking about grabbing their bike, putting their helmet on as quick as possible, and jumping on that bike and going.